Dr. Krellmoth had spent 40 cycles studying xenobiology across the galaxy, cataloging the evolutionary adaptations of hundreds of species. Yet nothing had prepared him for the biological paradox that was humanity. He stood in the medical bay of the research vessel Enlightenment, reviewing the initial assessment of their first human specimen, a volunteer named David Park who'd agreed to participate in the Galactic Biological Survey. "This cannot be correct," Krellmoth muttered, his tentacles twitching with confusion. "Run the diagnostics again." His assistant, a crystalline Vex named Shira, pulsed with concern. "Doctor, I've run them 4 times. The results are consistent. Humans are fundamentally flawed." The list was damning. Humans had fragile skin that tore easily, a skeletal structure prone to fracture, a circulatory system that could be fatally compromised by a single puncture, and a sensory range so limited they couldn't detect half the electromagnetic spectrum. Their immune systems attacked their own bodies. They required 8 hours of unconsciousness daily. They aged rapidly and died after barely a century. How did such a species even survive to develop space travel? Shira wondered aloud. David, overhearing from the examination table, couldn't help but laugh. "Want me to show you?" The first demonstration came accidentally, during a routine stress test. The equipment was designed to measure physiological responses across various species. When David stepped onto the platform, Krellmoth gradually increased the gravitational load, expecting the human to tap out around 1.2 g, standard for most spacefaring species. David was still standing comfortably at 3 g. "Impossible," Krellmoth whispered, checking his instruments. "Your bone density is too low for this. Your muscle structure is inefficient. You should have collapsed." David grinned, barely breathing hard. "Earth is 1 g, document. This is just like wearing a weighted backpack at home. My fragile skeleton has been dealing with crushing gravity since birth." The second revelation came during an emergency drill. A simulated hull breach sent the crew scrambling for environmental suits. In the chaos, David's suit malfunctioned, exposing him to reduced pressure and temperature for nearly 30 seconds before backup systems engaged. The medical team rushed him to the bay, expecting to treat severe hypoxia and tissue damage. David was rubbing his arms and complaining about goosebumps. "You should be dead," Shira stated flatly. "Explosive decompression, temperature drop of 40 degrees, oxygen deprivation." "Yeah, it sucked," David admitted. "But humans have these things called goosebumps. Our skin creates insulation when it's cold. And our blood? It can store oxygen. We can hold our breath for minutes if we train for it. Our ancestors used to dive underwater to hunt fish. No tech, just biology." Krellmoth's tentacles nodded. "Your weakness is an adaptation for extreme environments." The third shock came during a contamination incident. A sample container broke, releasing bacteria that sent 3 crew members to intensive care within hours. David, who'd been closest to the breach, showed up for his shift the next day with nothing but a slight fever. "How?" Krellmoth demanded, scanning David frantically. "Those pathogens have a 90% mortality rate. Had a fever last night, felt crappy, woke up fine," David shrugged. "My immune system doesn't just defend, it learns. Every infection makes it stronger. Yeah, sometimes it goes haywire and attacks pollen or my own joints, but mostly, it's a evolutionary arms race happening inside my body every day." "Your flawed immune system fought off lethal bacteria overnight?" "Doc, my ancestors survived plagues that killed millions. The ones who lived passed on their resistance. We're the descendants of survivors." The final revelation came when David demonstrated human unconsciousness, sleep. Krellmoth monitored his brain activity, expecting the low-level maintenance state most species exhibited during rest periods. Instead, David's brain lit up like a star, processing information at incredible speeds. "You're solving problems in your sleep," Krellmoth observed, stunned. Your unconscious state is more active than most species' waking cognition. REM sleep, David explained after waking. My brain consolidates memories, solves problems, runs simulations. We literally wake up smarter than when we went to sleep. You thought our daily unconsciousness was a weakness? Krellmoth compiled his report for the Galactic Biological Council, but he struggled with how to classify humanity. Every supposed weakness was actually a sophisticated adaptation. Their fragile skin was sensitive enough to feel a single hair move. Their limited senses were backed by pattern recognition brains that could extrapolate missing data. Their aging was a cellular defense against cancer. Their inefficient metabolism could extract energy from almost anything organic. Perhaps, Shira suggested, reading over his notes, we've been measuring them against the wrong standards. We optimized for efficiency and specialization. They optimized for survival in chaos. Krellmoth watched David in the observation lounge, casually chatting with crew members while standing in what should have been an uncomfortable gravitational field, breathing air that should have been too thin, fighting off pathogens that should have killed him, all while his body repaired daily damage, his brain ran background processing, and his immune system catalogued new threats. Superpowers, Krellmoth finally said. We were looking at superpowers and calling them weaknesses. Humans didn't conquer their death world despite their biology. They conquered it because of their biology. David raised his coffee cup in salute, drinking a beverage hot enough to burn most species' mouths, caffeinated enough to be toxic to half the crew, and smiled, flashing his omnivore teeth that could bite through bone if needed. Welcome to humanity, document. We're a disaster of evolutionary compromises that somehow adds up to something terrifying.